One of the biggest mysteries in Bluey is what actually happened in Mackenzie's past and why his family moved to Australia. Are you ready to discover the truth and finally understand the mystery behind the Border Collie? Trauma. In the episode called Space, we learn that Mackenzie struggles with a trauma known as separation anxiety disorder. It's a complicated name, but it basically means being afraid of being away from people who are very close to you. In the little pup's case, this fear started when he was at a park and thought he had been abandoned by his mom. On that day, Mackenzie was just a tiny puppy, but he already understood what abandonment felt like. Unfortunately, this fear ended up causing him to feel the trauma in many things beyond his family. For example, in the same episode, when he's playing with Rusty and Jack Russell, Mackenzie asks his friends to pretend he was abandoned. To his friends, this doesn't make sense, but to the fans it does, because we finally discover the Border Collie's biggest fear. Thankfully, he got better that day because Calypso showed up and helped her student feel safe again. Even so, there's a lot more about Mackenzie's past and future than you imagine. In fact, it may even involve Bluey's family, since the two of them are going to get married someday. So grab your popcorn and get comfy on the couch. Another Cinewave is starting. Alone. If you watched the episode Space, you know that the little pup distances himself from his friends whenever he's upset or angry. He likes staying away from others so he can think. And this definitely has something to do with his family. Mackenzie believes people will abandon him even when that thought makes absolutely no sense. And to avoid being abandoned, he ends up doing that to his friends first. In the episode Space, Jack and Rusty ask him why he walked away from the game they created, but Mackenzie tells them they were the ones who abandoned a friend. It's strange to think about, but like we explained before, Mackenzie is a pup with serious struggles. He's terrified of being abandoned, yet at the same time, he pushes people away. That's why talking about this character is so difficult. New Zealand. What if Mackenzie actually misses home? This is a very serious and fair question. Of course, nobody wants to think about the Border Collie being far from his Australian friends, but maybe Mackenzie feels something similar to what Riley felt in the first Inside Out movie. Mackenzie came from New Zealand, a country that's close to Australia, meaning he doesn't come from the same culture Bluey was born into. And even though he will grow up and live in Brisbane, it can be very hard for him to truly feel at home. Maybe his family moved to another country because someone got a job offer, similar to what happened with Bandit at the end of season 3. But what really happens with Mackenzie today is that he misses home a lot. He probably has friends and relatives back in his home country who he still thinks about and misses deeply. Maybe the Border Collie doesn't even like living in Australia. For him, making friends and adapting to a new country must be really hard. Will he try to run away from home when he gets older? Anger. Mackenzie also has serious trouble controlling his anger. We see this in the episode Shops. The kids decide to play pretend and set up a store that sells things for cats. The idea was for Mackenzie to be the owner of a little kitten who was hungry and needed treats. But you know Bluey, she really needs to control everything that happens in a game. At one point, she decided they needed money, then she changed everyone's roles around, and later she didn't let Chloe do what she wanted in the game. Unfortunately, all of this made the Border Collie angry, and he got so upset that he walked out of the game. And of course, once again, Mackenzie walked away because he was upset. It makes sense for the Border Collie to get angry that day because Bluey was stopping him and everyone else from playing, all because she wanted to control every detail of the game. But this also proves how much Mackenzie needs help controlling his feelings. Bluey just wanted the game to be perfect, but the Border Collie almost ended up ruining playtime for everyone. This also shows that, besides dealing with trauma, Mackenzie might also need therapy sessions to help with anger management. But what do you think about this? Would you be friends with Mackenzie? Comment #friends so we can get to know you. Rugby. Here's a detail about Mackenzie that almost no one noticed. He doesn't understand sports very well. In the episode The Decider, when Bluey and Lucky's neighbors were watching the big rugby match, something interesting happened at the very end. there was going to be a game between Australia's team and New Zealand's team, and since this was a huge moment for the sport, Bluey's family and Lucky's family decided to playfully tease Mackenzie's parents. Let's remember that all of them are good friends, but since it was a game between the countries they came from, each neighbor rooted for a different team. But Mackenzie didn't understand any of this. When his parents began teasing the neighbors because of the match, he seemed confused about what was happening. Does this mean the Border Collie doesn't know anything about rugby? Maybe he doesn't like sports at all, and that ends up making him feel a little distant from his friends. Jack and Rusty love sports, and Lucky is a pup who's obsessed with rugby. This is sad because it means Mackenzie might struggle to make friends. Hercules. Do you know Hercules? He's a St. Bernard who lives in Bluey's neighborhood, but he doesn't attend the same school as the little blue pup. We're mentioning him here because Hercules did something very mean to Mackenzie in the circus-themed episode. Like every St. Bernard, Hercules is a big dog, and at the end of the episode, he lifted Mackenzie into the air and spun the Border Collie around so fast that Mackenzie got dizzy. In the game, Mackenzie was pretending to be an evil dog, but it was just play acting. Even so, Hercules, who is a much stronger kid, decided to use his size to be mean to Mackenzie. In the episode, it's shown as something funny, but it's definitely not okay to do that to someone. Was Mackenzie scared? Probably yes, especially because he tries to say it was just pretend, but nothing worked. Hercules lifts his friend and spins him until poor Mackenzie gets dizzy. Poor guy. Stream. But if there's one thing that really makes sense to say about Mackenzie, it's that this dog is incredibly brave. In the stream episode, he was the one who suggested that Bandit take Bluey's group all the way there. The main character was really scared, but the Border Collie wasn't. He teaches Bluey how she has to jump between the rocks so she won't fall. And he also shows the main character what a leech is, and that they're not actually that dangerous. Mackenzie is a dog who loves nature. Playing in the middle of the woods and around animals is something he truly loves, and that fits perfectly with his breed. Border Collies are dogs that need to burn lots of energy, and in the stream episode, he tells Bluey that jumping from one rock to another is the same thing as the game Jumping Sheep. Bluey doesn't understand what her friend meant because they come from different countries, but that reveals something very important. Mackenzie is the kind of boy who loves playing with animals. It seems like Bluey's friend is really into leaping over sheep, which makes total sense since Border Collies are sheep-herding dogs in real life. Energy. Here's a detail that is weird, but also sad about Mackenzie. At the end of the stream episode, the little pup said he was a bit tired after spending the whole day playing. Bandit hears what he says and comments that he never thought Mackenzie could get tired. But wait, what does that mean? We explained that Border Collies are herding dogs, the kind of dog that helps control millions of sheep on farms all around the world. But what does that have to do with Bandit's comment? Border Collies are dogs that probably have a lot of energy, and Mackenzie has a running and playing rhythm that must exhaust the other characters, which is why his friends may not enjoy playing with him sometimes. This is really sad, and there's also a scene that proves what we're talking about. In the helicopter episode, when it's Mackenzie's turn to play with Bluey, he's so hyped up that the main character gets super anxious. It's sad to think that the Border Collie ends up annoying his friends during playtime. The subscribe button is right there, waiting for you. How about clicking and keeping up with everything we post? Holes. Have you ever noticed that Mackenzie likes digging holes? In the Moms and Dads episode, Indy argues with Rusty and the two decide to split up during the game. Because of that, Indy goes to play with Mackenzie, and he's in the school sandbox digging several holes without paying attention to what his friend is saying. And what does this have to do with the sad details of the Border Collie's life? At the end of the episode, we see that Indy and Rusty hide inside one of the holes Mackenzie dug, and that must be why the little dog did it. He likes digging holes so he can hide. And, as we already showed, this character likes distancing himself from others when he's feeling sad or angry. This is a very sad detail in Mackenzie's life, and maybe this little pup is in need of help. What do you think about this theory? Talking. In the Curry Swap episode, something happens that can be really sad for the Border Collie. That day, Bingo was going to his house with Bandit to exchange spicy sauces. But something Mr. Healer hadn't told his daughter was that the next day he was going to travel very far away for a long time. Bingo was the only one who didn't know. Mackenzie is the one who tells the truth to the little pup, and when he does, Bingo gets really sad. Mackenzie's mom didn't like what he did, because that day he had talked way too much. Maybe Mackenzie, being a very anxious little dog, is the kind of character who really talks more than he should. And if that's true, he might get scolded by his parents a lot. It wasn't Mackenzie's place to tell Bingo the truth, meaning he did what he shouldn't have done, and because of that, he got in trouble with his parents. This is honestly a very sad moment. The future. And of course, there's something we already know about Mackenzie's future, but this isn't sad at all. It's actually very cool. The Border Collie is going to marry Bluey. We know this because the main character's daughter is a mix between the Heeler and Border Collie breeds. Besides that, since Mackenzie is a pup who has dealt with trauma since childhood, he will probably become a child psychologist. He knows younger kids need help, and since he has his own history with trauma, it makes perfect sense that he would want to protect and help children. And this is super important. But what do you think about that? We think it's time for you to have some fun. The fun doesn't stop here. There are 2 amazing videos waiting for you on the screen. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.